People think working in a graveyard is scary. It's not. Not really. I've been a gravedigger for over 10 years. Nights are quiet, peaceful. Nothing moves, nothing talks. Just the dirt, the stones, and the dead. And the dead, well, they don't bother me. I work alone. I like it that way. No one to talk to, no one to argue with. Just me and my shovel. The graveyard sits on the edge of a small town nobody really visits anymore. Half the houses are empty. Most people forget this place even exists. I start my shift at 8 p.m, walk the fence, check the gates. Sometimes I rake the leaves or fix broken stones. At night, the air feels still, like the world's holding its breath. That's the part I like best. The stillness. You'd be surprised how calm a graveyard can feel. It's the living that bring noise, not the dead. One night, maybe a few weeks ago, I was finishing a walk around the far side, where the oldest graves are. It's darker there, the lamps don't reach that far, and the trees cover the moonlight. I was just about to head back when I heard something strange. It sounded like crying, very soft, almost like a whisper. I stopped walking and listened. The sound stopped. I looked around. Nothing. No one. Probably the wind. I said out loud, trying to shake it off. I went back to the small shed near the middle of the graveyard. That's where I keep my tools and old chair. I sat down, poured some coffee from my thermos, and tried not to think about the crying. But it stuck in my head. Not loud, not wild, just soft. Like someone who'd been crying for a long time and didn't have much energy left. It didn't scare me. Not yet. The next night, I went out again. Same time, same path. I didn't expect to hear it again, but I did. Same place, same sound. Crying, I froze. My flashlight was on, but the beam didn't reach very far. I aimed it toward the trees and graves. The crying stopped again. This time, I said nothing. Just stood there. I thought maybe a teenager was hiding out there. People sneak in sometimes. Maybe someone was playing a trick. Hello, I called. No answer. I waited. Nothing moved. I walked toward the sound, but after a few steps, I couldn't tell where it was coming from anymore. It was like it had slipped away. I turned around and went back to the shed. Tried to laugh it off, but it kept happening. Not every night, but enough that I started walking the far side faster. I didn't tell my boss. What would I say? Hey, the wind's crying out here. He'd tell me to get more sleep. Thing is, I don't sleep much anymore. Not since I started hearing it. The crying, it sounds sad, lonely, but sometimes, sometimes. It sounds like it's getting closer, and that's what's bothering me. Because nothing should be moving in this graveyard. Not at night, not ever. The next night, I went back to work like normal. I didn't talk about the crying. I told myself it was just the wind. Maybe an animal. My brain playing tricks. But deep down, I was lying to myself. I knew what I heard. Around 2:30 a.m., I was walking past the old graves again. That part of the cemetery never feels right. It's too quiet, like something's holding its breath. And then I heard it crying, but this time, it was louder, closer. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was a person, a woman, maybe, sobbing like her heart was broken. The sound wasn't floating on the wind. Like before, it was right there, just beyond the trees. Hello, I said. No answer, just more crying. I walked toward it, holding my flashlight tight. My boots crunched on gravel, but I moved slow. I didn't want to scare whoever it was. If it was someone real, the crying got louder with each step, ma'am. I called out, "Are you hurt?" Still nothing. I pointed the flashlight between two trees. The crying stopped, just like that. I stepped forward and shined the light around. There was nothing. No woman, no movement. Just old graves, moss, and dirt. Stood still and listened. Nothing. I turned off the flashlight for a second. My eyes adjusted to the dark. The moon was out, but barely. Then the crying started again. But this time, it was behind me. I spun around fast. Light in my hand, heart pounding, dot again. Nothing there. Okay. I whispered to myself, "This ain't funny." I walked in a wide circle, shining the light in every direction. The crying stopped each time the light moved across a spot, like it knew where I was pointing it. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It was hiding, watching. I felt it, that weird feeling in your spine, like someone is standing behind you, breathing slow. But when you turn around, nothing. I checked the gates, locked. I checked the fence. No brakes, no footprints on the dirt. No one could have gotten in. I walked back to the shed, fast, locking the door behind me. I sat in my chair and turned off the light. I just listened. The crying started again, closer, then it stopped. That silence, it was worse than the crying. I didn't move, didn't even breathe. Then something tapped the shed door. Once, light, like a finger. I grabbed the shovel. I didn't say a word. Another tap, a little harder. I waited, holding the shovel tight. Nothing else came. After a few minutes, I opened the door. No one was there, but on the ground, outside the door, were 3 small rocks, stacked on top of each other. I didn't stack them. I didn't touch them. I just stared, then kicked them over. I didn't hear the crying again that night, but something had changed. It wasn't just a sound anymore. It knew. I was there, and now, it wanted me to know it was too. The next morning, my boss called me in early. "Got a new burial coming up," he said. "Plot C19. Need you to dig it by tonight." I nodded. "I'll get it done." Plot C19 was on the far end, near the trees. The same area where I'd been hearing the crying. I didn't say anything about that. I didn't want him thinking I was losing it. I grabbed my shovel, walked out there, and started clearing the spot, but as soon as I got close, I stopped. There was already a headstone. It was old. The edges were chipped, covered in moss, but the name carved into it was clear as day. My name, my full name. First, middle, last. Exactly right. I stared at it. For a long time, it looked like it had been there for years. The letters were faded, but still readable. The date of death was blank. I stepped back. "This isn't funny," I said, like someone was playing a joke. Maybe one of the other workers, maybe my boss, but no one was around. I looked over the map. 100 to 19 was supposed to be unmarked. Empty. Still I saw the stone. I touched it. I ran my fingers over the letters. It felt real. I left the area and went back to the office. "Hey," I said to my boss, trying to sound casual. "That plot you gave me, it's already marked." He looked confused, said Azinovi. "Yeah, there's a stone there." He shook his head. "There's not. I checked it this morning myself. It's clean. You sure?" He gave me a weird look. "You okay?" I forced a smile. "Yeah, just making sure." I went back out there an hour later. The stone was gone. Nothing was there now, just dirt and grass. I stood there for a while, trying to figure it out. I even checked the grass. No marks, no signs that anything had been moved. Nothing. I started digging. Each time I pushed the shovel in, I looked over my shoulder. I kept thinking someone was behind me, watching, but I was alone. When I hit 5 feet deep, I stopped for a break, sat on a nearby stone, wiped the sweat from my face. I looked up, and the headstone was back, right where I had been digging. Same name, same missing death date. I blinked, rubbed my eyes, looked again, gone dot. I stood up fast, backed away from the hole. I didn't finish digging that night. I went home and sat in the dark for hours, trying to figure out what I saw. Maybe I was just tired. Maybe I imagined it. That's what I told myself. But I know what I saw. It was my name on that grave, and it was already there, before I was even dead. The next day, I went back to the grave, C-19. I didn't see the headstone this time. The grass looked normal, no sign of what I saw before. Still, I didn't feel right. Something was off. But I had a job to do, so I grabbed my shovel and started digging. At first it was just the sound of metal hitting dirt, but after a few minutes, I heard something else. It was faint, like a whisper, too soft to understand, but I swear it was words. Not the wind, not birds, whispers. I stopped digging and stood still. The voices stopped. I waited a few seconds, then pushed the shovel back into the dirt. The whispers came back. They were quiet, but they were there, like someone was under the soil. Talkingi. Knelt down and pressed my ear closer to the ground. It wasn't crying this time, it was talking. A bunch of voices, low and fast, like a crowd whispering secrets all at once. I couldn't make out what they were saying, but one thing was clear. They were under me and they were moving. I pulled my hand off the shovel and touched the dirt. It was warm, not just warm, hot, like something was alive under there. I jerked my hand back and stood up fast. "Nope," I said. "Not doing this right now." I packed up my tools and left the grave half dug. That night, I couldn't sleep. Kept thinking about the voices. I tried turning on the TV. I tried listening to music. Nothing helped. I finally laid down and closed my eyes. That's when the dream started. In the dream, I was in the grave, the same one I was digging, but I was inside it, lying flat on my back. I couldn't move, couldn't talk. Dirt kept falling. On my face, on my chest, into my mouth. I tried to scream, but no sound came out. I looked up, and there was someone standing over me. Just a dark shape with no face, holding a shovel, watching. I tried to claw my way out. My fingers scraped the dirt, but it just kept coming. I couldn't breathe, couldn't see. I was being buried alive. Then I woke up. I sat up fast, gasping for air. My chest hurt. My heart was racing. I looked down at my hands. They were covered in dirt, real dirt. Under my nails, in my palms. I checked the bed dirt all over the sheets. I hadn't gone outside. I hadn't sleepwalked, but somehow the dirt followed me. I washed my hands 5 times, scrubbed them until they turned red. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. The next morning, I went back to the shed to grab my tools. My shovel was already out. It was leaning against the wall, covered in fresh soil. And I know I didn't touch it. I stood there, staring at it, thinking the same question over and over. Who's digging when I'm not? About a week ago, I buried a man in plot A12. I remember it because the ground was hard, and it took me longer than usual to dig. Nothing weird happened that night, just a normal job. But last night, I walked past at 12, and something felt wrong. The dirt didn't look the same. It looked loose, like it had been dug up again. I knelt down and ran my hand across the ground. It had been disturbed. That shouldn't happen. I looked at the headstone. The name was still there, but it was scratched up. Deep, long marks across the letters. I couldn't read the name anymore. I stood there for a minute, then made a choice I didn't want to make. I went to the shed, grabbed a shovel, and came back. I started digging. The dirt moved too easy, like someone had already loosened it. When I hit the top of the coffin, my hands were shaking. I didn't want to open it, but I had to. I pried the lid off. Empty. The coffin was empty. No body, no clothes, just scratches, deep ones. All over the inside. The lid was cracked. From the inside, I dropped the shovel and stepped back. No, I whispered. No way. I looked around the graveyard. Nothing moved. No one was out there, but I felt it again, that same cold feeling on my back, like someone was watching me. I backed away and put the dirt back in the hole fast. My hands were shaking. My breath wouldn't slow down. After that, I ran to the office. We have a camera set up out there. Not the best quality, but enough to keep watch at night. I went to the monitor and pulled up the footage from last night. It played like normal at first. I saw myself walking past the grave just after midnight. Everything was fine. Then the screen glitched. From 3:03 a.m. to 6:03 a.m., it was all static. Nothing showed up. No video. Just that white, snowy mess. Exactly 3 hours gone. I checked the other nights, same thing. Static from 3:03 to 6:03. Every single night my stomach dropped. I called my boss. Told him we might have a camera issue. He said, it's old. Probably just the system acting up. I didn't argue, but this wasn't normal. 3 hours every night. Gone, and now a grave was empty. I tried to calm down. Told myself maybe the burial papers were wrong. Maybe I dug the wrong grave. But I know I put that man in the ground. I saw his face before I closed the lid. Now he's gone, and the scratches. They weren't from animals. They were from inside. Something or someone got out. Started keeping track of the time. Every night, the crying came back. Always the same way. Soft at first, then louder, then gone. But it wasn't random anymore. It always started at 3:03 a.m. and it always ended at 6:03 a.m. 3 hours, exactly. I tested it. I set alarms. I wrote it down. Every night, no matter what, it started and ended at those same times. I didn't sleep. Much after that, one night, I brought a recorder. Just a cheap little thing I used to use for notes. I left it running inside the shed, near the window. I wanted to hear if anything strange happened while I was gone. The next morning, I listened to the tape. At first, it was just wind and bugs. Normal night sounds. Then, right at 3:03, the crying started. I felt sick when I heard it. It was clearer on the tape than it ever sounded in real life. It wasn't just crying, it was talking to a woman's voice, whispering my name over and over. Then, something else happened. I heard my own voice on the tape. I was whispering back, but I hadn't been there. I wasn't even in the graveyard that night. I left the recorder running and went home to sleep. Still, there I was, on the tape. "Hello," my voice said. "I hear you." The crying got louder. My voice again. "I'm listening." Then silence. I paused the tape. I couldn't breathe. That wasn't possible. I didn't say those things. I wasn't there. I played it again. Same thing. My voice, clear as day. I checked the timestamp. The recording went on until 6:03 a.m., then stopped on its own. I tried to tell myself maybe I had recorded it earlier. Maybe I forgot. Maybe I talked in my sleep. Something. But I knew that wasn't true. So the next night, I stayed in the shed. I sat down at 2:55 a.m. with the recorder next to me and a hot cup of coffee. I turned on a clock with a big red digital display so I couldn't miss the time at 3:03 a.m. The crying started again. This time, I didn't move. I just sat there. It was outside the shed, moving around. Sometimes it sounded far, sometimes right up close. At one point, it whispered right by my ear. I didn't open the door. I didn't speak. I just sat there with my hands shaking. The clock changed to 6:03 and the sound stopped. Just like that gone dot, I pressed stop on the recorder. Later, when I played it back, I braced myself. The tape caught the crying. It caught the whispers. And again, it caught my voice. "Hello," it said. "I hear you. I'm listening." But I didn't say anything that night. I swear, I didn't, single quotes, and the worst part. At the end of the tape, there was another voice. Not the woman, not me. Something deeper, something wrong. It said, "He listens now. He belongs to the hours." Then the tape ended. I deleted the file, but every night I still hear the crying, right at 3:03 a.m. And I don't know how much longer I can stay quiet. A few nights after the tape, I started cleaning out the old shed. I needed something to do, something normal. There were dusty boxes in the back I'd never touched before. Most were filled with broken tools, old papers, useless junk. But one box was different. It was small, wooden, and locked. I almost threw it out, but something told me to open it. I pried it open with a crowbar. Inside was a leather book, a journal. The first page had a name, Thomas J. Raleigh, groundskeeper. No date. I'd never heard of him. I flipped through the pages. At first, it looked like a normal work log. Notes about headstones, plot numbers, weather. Then, around halfway through, the writing changed. It got messy, rushed. The words started running together. One line kept showing up over and over. The crying grave. I froze. I kept reading. The entries got darker. 3:03 a.m. again. She's outside. I didn't answer. It knows my name. It whispered it through the door. I taped myself sleeping. My voice talked back. No one believes me. They said, "I'm tired." I'm not tired. I'm watched. The writing turned into full panic, like he was scared for his life. Then I hit the last page. It was short, just one line written in shaky, almost childlike letters. It wants a listener. That's all. No date, no signature. Just that. I sat there for a long time. staring at those words. I looked around the shed like someone might be standing behind me, but I was alone still. I couldn't shake the feeling, the crying, the voices, the static, and now this journal, left behind by someone who used to do my job, someone who disappeared. No one ever told me about him, no. One warned me. I flipped back to the first page. I wanted to be sure of the name, Thomas J. Raleigh. Later that night, I checked the cemetery records. Plot B22, buried 15 years ago. Cause of death, unknown. The name on the grave, Thomas J. Raleigh. That night, I made up my mind. No more hiding. Number, more listening from the shed. I was going to find it at 3:02 a.m. I grabbed my flashlight and walked out into the graveyard. The second my watch hit 3:03, the crying started. It was louder than ever. No more guessing. It was coming from one place now, deep in the far corner, near the tree line. I followed it. Every step I took, the crying grew clearer. Not just sad, it sounded angry, like it was waiting for me. I moved between old stones, some cracked, some half buried. The light from my flashlight shook in my hand. Then I found it, a grave with no headstone, just a small hole in the dirt, like something had tried to dig its way out. The crying was coming straight from that spot. I stood at the edge and stared. Who's there? I asked. The crying stopped, gone, just like that. The silence was worse. I leaned in. My mouth went dry. I was about to speak again when I heard something. A voice from inside the grave. It said, "Hello." My body froze. It was my voice, exactly like mine. I stepped back, heart pounding in my chest. The voice came again. "I hear you, I'm listening, still me." I dropped the flashlight. The beam landed across the dirt. The voice whispered once more, "Come closer." I didn't move. I couldn't. It was like I was split in half. One part terrified, the other pulled toward the sound. I bent down just a little, and then I heard something else, breathing, coming up through the soil. Then, fingers start scraping right under the dirt. Something was trying to get out. Something with my voice. I ran, didn't look back, didn't stop running until I locked myself in the shed and sat in the corner with my hands over my ears. The crying didn't come back that night, but the next time I looked in a mirror, I noticed something just for a second. My reflection didn't move the same way I did. I don't remember going out there. I woke up lying on the ground. My back hurt. My head was spinning. I couldn't move at first. My hands were covered in dirt, dry, cracked, and bloody. My nails were broken, scraped down to the skin. I was at the edge of a grave, freshly dug. The hole was deep, messy, and wide, like someone had been working fast, too fast. I looked around. The sky was still dark, but it felt like morning. The birds were starting. My watch said 6:04 a.m. I sat up, confused. I didn't remember digging. I didn't remember even leaving the shed. The last thing I remembered was sitting in my chair at midnight, telling myself I wouldn't go outside. I was sure I locked the door, but somehow I ended up out here. I stood up slow and stumbled back to the shed. My legs felt weak. My boots were soaked with mud inside. Everything was still there. My tape recorder was sitting on the table where I left it. Still running, I pressed stop. I sat down, hit play, and listened. At first, nothing. Just the usual sounds. Then, right at 3:03 a.m., I heard movement, heavy footsteps, breathing. And then my voice. "I'm listening," it said. Over and over. "I'm listening. I'm listening. I'm listening." Each time I said it, I sounded more out of breath, more panicked. I could hear the shovel hitting dirt. Fast, hard, over and over. I sounded like I was digging for my life. Then something else came in, a second voice. It wasn't clear, just low whispers mixed in with mine. It sounded pleased, like it was. Happy I was listening now. Then I heard myself say something that made my skin crawl. "It's almost open." And then silence. The tape ran for another hour with nothing but wind and static. I sat there, shaking, staring at my bloody hands. I didn't remember any of it, but I had dug that grave. I walked back out later, just to see. The hole was still there, deep and clean now, like it had been finished at the bottom. Something was waiting, a pile of rocks, stacked neatly, 3 of them, same as before. This time, I didn't touch them. I just stood there, feeling like I wasn't alone. Something was listening. To Dot and whatever it is. I think it's almost here. My name's Aaron. I just started working as a gravedigger last month. It's not a bad job. Quiet, easy. Not many people come out here anymore. The cemetery's way out past town. Nobody really visits, except for a few. Funerals. I was hired after the last guy disappeared. They didn't tell me much. Just that he left one night and never came back. No call, no note. His car was still in the lot. They found his shovel sticking out of the ground near an open grave. That was it. They gave me the shed key and said, "You'll get used to the night shift." And I did, kind of. The first few nights were normal. I walked the fence, cleaned the stones, took breaks in the shed. Nothing strange until the 4th night. It was around 3 a.m. I remember checking my watch. That's when I heard it, crying, soft, faint, like someone far away. Hiding behind the trees, I froze. At first, I thought it might be an animal, a fox maybe. But then it got louder, and it sounded human, a woman, crying slow, tired, like she'd been crying for hours. I walked a few steps toward the sound, but it stopped, just like that, gone. Gone. I waited, but it didn't come back. The next night, it happened again. Same time, 3:03 a.m., same crying, same spot. I thought about checking the old security tapes, but they don't work anymore. Just show static from 3 to 6, every night. I to the office if they ever figured out what happened to the last gravedigger. They said no, just one of those things. But I found something in the shed. A journal. Most of the pages were torn out, but a few were still there. Just short sentences, no dates. One of them said, "It wants a listener." Another said, "Don't answer." The crying. That night, I stayed in the shed, with the lights off, right on time, 3:03. The crying started again, but I didn't move, didn't speak. I just sat still and listened. And maybe that was the mistake, because ever since then, I hear it every night. Not just crying now, whispering my name sometimes. Scratching sounds outside the door. Sometimes I dream about digging, but I don't remember doing it. Sometimes I wake up with dirt on my hands. I haven't told anyone yet, but I don't think. I'm alone out here, and I don't think the last guy left. I think he's still here, somewhere in the dark, still listening. I stayed in a motel that wasn't there in the morning. Some places don't exist on any map. You stay one night, and by morning, it's like it was never there. But you still remember the room. I was halfway through a long trip across the country, just me, my car, and the open road. I had planned to stop earlier, but I missed my turn. The GPS on my phone kept glitching. It froze 3 times, then turned off completely. I was driving through some back road I didn't remember. No signs, no towns, just trees and dirt on both sides. The gas tank was low, and my eyes were burning. I'd been driving for hours. I told myself I'd stop at the next place I saw. Any place. I turned down the radio. It was just static anyway. It had to be close to midnight. Maybe later. I hadn't seen another car for over an hour. I kept checking my phone, but the screen was still black. Then I saw something up ahead. A small light dot. As I got closer, I saw a sign. Old and flickering. One of those neon ones. It read, Misty Pines Motel, vacancy. It didn't look like much. 1 level, 8 or 9 rooms. A small office with 1 yellow light on. A few dead trees around the lot. No cars, no sound, but I didn't care. I was too tired to keep going. I pulled into the parking lot. Gravel crunched under my tires. I parked in front of the office and got out. The air felt heavy, like a storm was coming, but the sky was clear. The door creaked when I pushed it open. Inside, it smelled like old wood and cleaning spray. The lobby had a red couch, a plant that looked fake, and a small desk with a bell on top. No one was there. I rang the bell. A few seconds later, a man walked out from the back. He was tall, thin, with grey hair and a face that didn't move much. He didn't smile, didn't even blink at first. He looked at me and said, "One night." Yeah, I said. Just passing through. He pulled out a key, not a card. A real key on a metal ring with a plastic tag. It read, Room 6, $40, he said. I handed him cash. He didn't ask for ID. As he handed me the key, he said something strange. Don't go outside after midnight. We locked the gates for a reason. I thought he was joking. I gave a weak laugh. He didn't. I took the key and left without saying anything else. The parking lot looked darker now. I walked to room 6, which was 3 doors down. The key turned, with a loud click dot inside. The room looked old but clean. Brown carpet, 1 bed, a dresser, a small TV that wasn't plugged in, a mirror across from the bed. No phone, no clock, no remote, just quiet, too quiet. I sat on the bed. The mattress was stiff, but I didn't care. I just wanted to sleep before I turned off the light. I looked at the mirror. For a second, I thought I saw someone standing behind me. But when I turned around, the room was empty. I blamed it on the long drive. Then I turned off the light and tried to forget how the man said it. We locked the gates for a reason. When I walked into the motel office, a little bell above the door rang. The room looked old, like really old. Not just dusty, like time hadn't touched it since the 1960s. There was a red couch that had rips in the sides, a fake plant in the corner with dust on every leaf, a vending machine with glass so cloudy I couldn't tell if anything was inside. The lights were yellow, not warm, not soft, just dim and sick-looking. The desk was small and made of scratched wood. On top was a little silver bell. No one was behind it. I stood there for a few seconds, waiting. Then I reached out and rang the bell once. Dunked in. About 10 seconds later, a man stepped out from a door behind the counter. He moved slow. His back was bent and his arms were thin like sticks. He wore a dark green sweater and tan pants that looked too big for him. His face was pale and flat with deep lines. He didn't smile, didn't blink. He just stared at me. One night, I said, trying to sound normal, "Room for 1. He nodded slowly, like it took effort, without saying anything. He reached under the desk and pulled out a set of keys. Real keys, metal, heavy, hanging on a small green plastic tag. He set it on the counter. Room 6, he finally spoke. His voice was low and dry. Cash only. I reached into my wallet and handed him 2 $20 bills. He didn't give me a receipt, didn't ask for a name or ID, just took the money and dropped it into a drawer behind the desk. Then, as I picked up the key, he looked at me again. His eyes were strange, like they didn't focus right. And then he said it. "Don't go out after midnight. We lock the gates for a reason." I blinked. What? He didn't repeat it. He just turned and walked back through the door he came from. Gone. I stood there a few seconds, confused. The air in the room felt heavy, like it was pressing on my skin. I looked around. No. Security cameras. No computer. Not even a clock. It was like the place wasn't part of this time anymore. I left the office, the key tight in my hand as I walked to my room. I looked around the parking lot. No other cars, no noise, no movement behind the windows. If there were other guests, I didn't see them. I got to room 6, unlocked the door, and stepped inside. The room was dark. I didn't bother turning. On the TV, it wasn't even plugged in. The mirror across from the bed was tall and dusty. I sat down, looked at the key again, and thought about what the old man said. We locked the gates for a reason. I didn't know what that meant, but I was too tired to care. I stepped into room 6 and shut the door behind me. The lock was stiff, but I turned it. I also slid the chain across the top. The room looked cleaner than I expected. Old, but not dirty. Beige carpet. One bed with a brown blanket. A dresser. A nightstand with a lamp. No phone. No clock. Nothing on the walls. The mirror across from the bed was tall, almost full length. It had a gold frame, and the glass was cloudy in the corners. I didn't like how it faced the bed, but I was too tired to care. I tossed my backpack on the floor and sat on the edge of the bed. It didn't creak, but it was hard. The kind of bed that feels like it's never been used. I pulled out my phone to check the time, still dead. I plugged it into the wall, but nothing happened. The outlet didn't work. I tried the one by the dresser. Still nothing. I got up and flipped the light switch. The ceiling light came on, but it flickered once before staying on. That's when I noticed how quiet it was. Not just quiet, like no TV or no talking. I mean silent. No cars outside. No bugs. No hum from the light. No sound at all. I stood still and listened. Nothing. It felt like I was underwater. Like the whole room was sealed off from the world. I turned on the bathroom light and looked around. It was clean. Tiny sink. Shower with a curtain. One bar of soap still in the wrapper. The mirror in there was old and cracked at the top. I looked at myself. I didn't feel tired anymore. I felt watched, like someone was behind me. I turned around fast. Nothing. I walked back to the bed, shut off the bathroom light, and sat down. Then I looked at the big mirror across the room. It made me uncomfortable. I couldn't explain why. It just felt wrong, like it was too dark, even with the lights on. My reflection looked normal, but when I blinked, I thought it didn't, just for a second. I thought it didn't blink when I did. I rubbed my eyes. "You're just tired," I whispered to myself. I turned off the lamp and got under the blanket. It was stiff and cold. I lay there, staring at the ceiling, trying to relax, but the silence made it worse. I heard everything, every breath, every time the blanket moved. Then I heard something outside crunch, like footsteps on gravel. They stopped right in front of my door. I held my breath. Nothing moved. Then, knock knock dot soft, like fingertips on wood, not loud, not angry, just slow and quiet. I didn't move. I didn't say a word. Whoever it was didn't knock again. They just stood there. I counted to 30 in my head. Still nothing. Then the footsteps started again, walking away this time. After a minute, it was silent again. I didn't sleep. I just waited for morning. I must have fallen asleep at some point, even though I didn't mean to. I woke up all of a sudden. My heart was beating fast, like something had just scared me, but I couldn't remember what. I didn't move at first. I just stared at the ceiling. Then I looked over at the clock on my phone, but of course, it was still dead. I sat up and glanced at the mirror across the room. My reflection looked normal this time. Nothing weird. I stood up and walked to the window. I pulled the curtain back just a little to peek outside. That's when I saw her. A woman, Dot, standing in the middle of the parking lot. She was alone. No car, no bag. Just standing there, in a long dress or maybe a nightgown. I couldn't tell what color it was, but it looked old. She was facing my room, not just the motel. My window, not moving, just staring. I froze. She didn't wave, didn't yell, didn't even shift her weight. Her arms were down at her sides, like she was waiting for something. I didn't know what to do. I thought about opening the door and asking if she needed help. But something about her didn't feel right. I leaned closer to the window. I couldn't see her face clearly. It was too dark, but I swear her head followed me when I moved. Like her eyes were locked on me. I stepped back from the curtain. "Nope," I whispered. I waited. A minute passed. Then two. Still, she didn't move. Then slowly, she turned, not fast, like she was on strings. She turned around and started walking not toward the office, not down the road, but straight into the woods behind the motel. There's no path back there. It's thick, trees packed close together, but she didn't hesitate. She walked right into the trees like she knew the way. Then she was gone. I stood there for a long time, just watching the empty lot. Finally, I let the curtain fall and sat back on the bed. I didn't turn the light back on. I just sat in the dark, trying to tell myself I imagined it. "You're tired," I said out loud. It was just a dream, or sleepwalking, or maybe sleep paralysis. But I knew I had moved. I stood up. I walked. I looked out the window. That wasn't sleep paralysis. Still, I had to believe something, because the truth was worse. If that woman was real, why was she watching me? And why did she walk into the woods like she belonged there? I woke up with a headache. My mouth was dry. The kind of dry you get when the air's too still, like the room hadn't moved all night. I sat up and looked around. The lights were off, but a bit of sunlight was coming through the curtains. I checked my phone again, still dead. I stood up, stretched, and went to the door. I just wanted to leave, grab some gas, maybe coffee, and never think about this place again. I grabbed the key off the nightstand. I turned the lock, it clicked. Then I grabbed the knob, it didn't move. I paused, tried again, nothing. The knob wouldn't. Turni. Jiggled it harder, tried locking it, unlocking it. I even pushed against the door with my shoulder. It didn't budge. I said out loud, "Okay, what the hell?" I looked out the window. The parking lot was still empty. No cars, no people, just grey sky and trees. I tried the door again, still stuck. I banged on it with my fist. "Hello, anyone out there?" Silence. I waited. "Hello," I said louder. No one answered. I knocked again, 3 hard hits. Nothing. I backed up and looked. Around the room, I checked the window. Thought maybe I could climb out. It didn't open. The glass looked normal, but the edges were sealed. I pressed my fingers against it. Solid. No lock, no latch. I felt like I was in a box. A quiet box. I started to feel hot. Not from the room, from panic. I sat on the bed, took a breath, then tried the door one more time. I turned the key slowly, held the knob, and gave it a sharp twist. Suddenly it turned. The door creaked open on its own. No one was outside. No one waiting, just the parking lot. Same as before, except it wasn't. Something looked wrong. The colors were dull, like I was looking through a foggy screen. The red motel sign looked faded. The sky was pale, almost white. Even the trees seemed dry and still, like fake decorations. I stepped outside. The air felt off, heavy but not warm. I couldn't hear anything. No birds, no wind, just nothing. I turned and looked at the door from the outside. Room 6, the number looked scratched, not clean like last night, and the key in my hand felt heavier. I looked back toward the office. Still no people, still no cars, not even footprints on. The gravel, it felt like I was the only one there, or the only one still. Here, I started walking toward the office, slow, looking around, listening for anything. A voice, a radio, even that weird old man. But the more I walked, the more it felt. Like the place wasn't just empty, it was wrong. Like I had stepped into the motel's shadow. Something close to real, but not quite. I looked back at my room. The door was closed again, and I never touched it. I decided to check out. No more weird nights, no more strange mirrors. I just wanted to hand in the key and drive away. I walked toward the front office, but when I got there, it wasn't the same. The door was gone. The little room I'd been in last night, with the red couch and vending machine, wasn't there anymore. In its place was a hallway, long, narrow, and dim. I stood still for a second, just staring. It didn't make sense. I knew where the office was. I remembered the exact spot. But now, it was just this hallway. I thought maybe I made a mistake. Maybe I was turned around, so I walked forward. The hallway was quiet. The lights above me buzzed softly. Some of them flickered. Others were just dead. The floor creaked under my steps. I passed a door on the left, no number on it. I kept going, then another. This one said room 12. That made no sense. The motel only had 8 or 9 rooms. I passed more doors. 14, 16, 18, ... Each door looked older than the last. Some were cracked. Some had stains near the bottom. I don't even want to guess what those were. I turned a corner and stopped. I was back in front of room 6, my room. I hadn't gone in a circle. I hadn't turned more than once. But somehow, I was back. I tried to laugh, but nothing came out. I turned around and walked faster this time. More corners, more hallways. The lights got dimmer. The air smelled different now, like mold and something sweet, like rotting fruit. I passed another door. Someone whispered behind it. Just once, I stopped, put my ear to the wood. The whisper came again, but I couldn't understand the words. It didn't sound angry, it sounded sad. I backed away. I didn't want to know who was in there, or what. I turned and kept walking. The next hallway was even darker. The floor sloped slightly downward, like I was going underground. I passed room 21, then room 23. The numbers were getting higher. Too high, then I came to a door that wasn't numbered at all, just black wood, and red paint across the middle. A smear, not a line. Like someone tried to wipe their hand on it, behind that door. I heard breathing, not a whisper, breathing, slow, heavy, and close to the surface. I didn't stop this time. I ran. I didn't care where I was going anymore. I turned a corner, then another, and there it was again. Room 6, just sitting there like it had been waiting for me. I didn't even remember turning in that direction. I didn't remember any steps that would bring me back. I just stood there, staring at it. Then the doorknob turned. The door creaked open, slow and quiet. But no one came out. I didn't move. I didn't go back inside. I just backed away and whispered, "This place isn't real." But deep down, I already knew it was real. That's what made it worse. I kept walking through the motel, turning corners that didn't make sense. It felt like I was going in circles, but nothing ever looked the same. Then I saw a door I hadn't seen before. It was dark grey, with a crooked sign taped to the front. The sign said, "Service only. Do not enter." He hesitated, but part of me needed to know what was going on here. I pushed the door open. It led to a narrow hallway. It was cold and dim, lit by one flickering light above me. The walls were lined with mirrors, floor to ceiling, maybe 10 on each side. I stepped in. The floor creaked under my feet. Each mirror showed me standing there, but something was wrong. In one, I was wearing a red hoodie. I never owned one. In another, I looked older. My hair was thinner. In the third, I had no reflection at all. I kept walking. I looked at each one. They all showed me, but not the real me. Not how I looked just seconds ago. Then, I noticed something that made my skin crawl. One of the reflections wasn't moving. I tilted. My head left. My reflection stayed still. I stepped forward. It didn't follow. It just stood there. Then, slowly, it smiled. I didn't. I stepped back. It didn't. Its smile got wider. I wanted to leave. I turned around to go back to the door. Slam, it shut on its own. I ran to it and grabbed the handle. It wouldn't open. The light above me flickered again. Faster now, I turned back to the mirrors. All of them were smiling now. Every version of me, with different clothes, different eyes, some with blood on their mouths, were smiling. Except for me. I backed into the corner of the room, breathing hard. Then I heard something. A soft tap behind one of the mirrors. Then another, like fingers tapping glass. They wanted out. Or maybe just one of them did. I closed my eyes. I didn't want to see them anymore. I didn't want to be here anymore. Then I heard the door unlock. Just one click. I didn't wait. I ran out and slammed it behind me. I didn't look back, but I swear I felt one of those mirrors watching me the whole way down the hall. I don't know how, but I ended up back at the front office. The door was open now. No hallway, no extra rooms. Just the same lobby I walked into the first night. The red couch, the dusty fake plant, and the desk. But there was no one behind it. No sign of the old man. I stepped inside, looking around. It felt like walking into a photo of the place, not the real thing. Everything was too still. Then I saw the gust BOOK. It was sitting on the counter. Open. I didn't notice it before. It was thick, leather-bound, and full of yellow pages. I leaned in and looked closer. There were names, dozens of them, all in the same kind of handwriting. Neat, careful, all written in black ink. I flipped back a few pages. Some were dated 20 or 30 years ago. Others weren't dated at all. Then I saw my name. I stopped. My full name, written just like I'd write it. Same slanted M. Same way I cross my T's. The date next to it, August 17th, 1994. I stared at it. That was over 20 years ago. I wasn't even old enough to drive then, but there it was, like I'd been here before, like I'd signed in. A long time ago, I kept flipping. More names. Some had a black line drawn through them, thick, messy, like someone didn't want them seen. Others were circled in red. Then I got to the last few pages. They were blank, but as I touched one, I froze. It was warm, like someone had just been writing on it. I pulled my hand away fast. Then I flipped back again, to my name. I looked at it for a long time. I whispered, "Did I already stay here?" Out loud, just to hear it. No answer, of course. But in my head, I started to wonder, what if I had? What if I never left? What if this place doesn't let people leave? Maybe the people with their names crossed out never made it out, and the blank pages, maybe they were waiting for more. For me again. I closed the book slowly, and as I did, I swear I heard footsteps behind the desk. But when I looked, still no one there, just the book, sitting open like it was waiting for the next name. I opened my eyes and saw sunlight. For a second, I didn't remember where I was. Then I saw the mirror, the brown blanket, the old carpet, room 6, but everything looked ... normal ... no flickering lights, no whispers, no cold air, just daylight coming through the curtains. I sat up slowly. My heart wasn't racing. I didn't feel scared. I stood up, walked to the window, and pulled the curtain aside. The sky was blue. The parking lot was empty. The red motel sign was glowing again. It felt like a regular morning. I checked my phone, still dead. I shrugged. I'd charge it in the car. I picked up my bag and looked around the room one last time. The mirror was just a mirror. The bed looked untouched. Nothing moved. It almost felt like I had dreamed everything. Maybe I was just so tired last night that my mind started making stuff up. I walked to the door, turned the knob. It opened easily, no resistance, no strange sounds. I stepped outside. The air was cool and birds were chirping. I hadn't heard any birds yesterday. I looked toward the office. The door was closed, but there was a light on inside. I thought about saying something to the old man, maybe telling him what happened, or what I thought happened, but something told me to just go. So I did. I walked to my car. It looked fine. Nothing was scratched. Tires were full. Keys were still in my jacket pocket. I got in, started the engine, and backed out of the lot. As I pulled onto the road, I glanced in the rearview mirror. The motel sat there, quiet and still, same as before. I didn't stop. I didn't look back again. I just kept driving. After a few minutes, my phone buzzed. It lit up for missed texts, 2 voicemails. The battery showed 80%. No idea why it had stopped working before. The GPS came back. On it said I was 30 minutes from the nearest town. I felt silly, all that fear. The doors, the mirrors, the weird woman. Maybe it was a mix of being tired and alone. I told myself it was just a bad night, that I imagined most of it, that it was over. I even laughed a little and shook my head. I thought I was free, but what I didn't know was that the motel wasn't behind me anymore. It was somewhere else now, waiting. I drove for over an hour before I saw signs of life again. A gas station showed up on the side of the road, small, old, and half hidden behind some trees. I pulled in and got out. There was a young guy behind the counter. Looked bored, playing with his phone. "Morning," I said. He gave me a lazy nod. I grabbed a bottle of water and walked up to pay. As he rang it up, I said, "Hey, you ever hear of the Misty Pines Motel? It's maybe 20 miles back. Real quiet place. He stopped moving. Then he looked up at me slowly. Misty Pines, he asked. Yeah, I said. Big red sign, 1 floor. I stayed there last night. He stared at me like I had just spoken another language. There's no motel out there, he said. Not for a long time. What do you mean? I mean it burned down, like 30 years ago. I thought he was messing with me. Double quotes. No, I'm serious, I said. I was just there, room 6. I talked to the guy at the front desk. He shook his head. I've lived here my whole life. You pass trees, hills, more trees. That's it. There's no motel. I reached into my jacket and pulled out the key. I didn't even think about it. I had forgotten it was still in my pocket. I set it on the counter. Room 6. He picked it up. It looked different now. The green plastic tag was cracked and cloudy. The metal was dark and rusted, like it hadn't been touched in years. This is old, he said. I didn't answer. I couldn't. He handed it back slowly, looking a little nervous. I grabbed it and stuffed it back in my jacket. You okay, man? He asked. I nodded. Yeah, just tired. He didn't say anything else. I paid and walked toward the restroom in the back. The light in there was buzzing. The mirror was fogged at the bottom. I washed my hands, then looked up. My reflection was staring at me, but it felt ... off, like it was too still. I tilted my head to the left. It tilted right. I blinked. It didn't. Then it smiled, a slow, wide smile I didn't make. And then it winked. I stumbled back, almost tripping. When I looked again, it was normal, just me. Looking tired, looking scared. I dried my hands, left the restroom, and walked straight to my car. I didn't stop again. Not that day, not for a long time. Because now I wonder, maybe I left the motel, or maybe it left with me. My cousin disappeared in the forest and came back without eyes. People get lost in the woods. Most come back. But when someone returns, missing something vital, you start to wonder what really found them out there. I still remember the day I got to my aunt's village. It was the start of summer break, and my parents sent me there to get fresh air. The village was small, with only a few houses. No shops, no cars, just dirt roads and tall trees all around. Forest everywhere. My aunt hugged me when I arrived. She looked older than I remembered, tired. "Rafiq is in the back," she said. "He's missed you," I smiled. It had been almost 2 years since I last saw my cousin. We used to be best friends when we were little. We'd run through those woods like wild animals. There was this weird tree deep in the forest bent sideways, with thick roots that stuck out like claws. We called it the hook tree. We used to dare each other to touch it. One time, we swore we saw something move inside it, like a shadow. I walked to the backyard. Rafiq was sitting in the grass, staring at the forest. "Hey," I said. He looked up at me. He didn't smile, just nodded. "You okay?" I asked. He nodded again. "Yeah, just tired." I sat next to him. "Remember the hook tree?" He didn't answer for a second. Then he said, "Yeah, that place creeped me out." Finally smiled, just a little. Still does. We sat there in silence. I kept looking at the trees. They seemed taller than before, thicker, like they had grown over everything. The shadows between them were darker than I remembered. Something about them felt wrong. Not scary, exactly. Just wrong. Like the whole forest was watching us. At dinner, my aunt made lentils and rice, same as always. She asked me about school. I asked her about the village. "Nothing changes here," she said. Rafiq stayed quiet. He didn't eat much. He kept looking toward the window, toward the woods. Still, scared of the forest? I joked. "No," he said. "I just don't like it after dark." I laughed, but it didn't feel funny. Something in his voice was different, flat, almost afraid. That night, I lay in bed, staring at the ceiling. I heard a dog barking far off, then nothing. The house creaked a little, normal old house sounds. But then I heard footsteps on the porch, slow ones. I got up and peeked through the curtain. Nothing there, just trees. When I turned to go back to bed, I saw Rafiq standing in the hallway, just standing, not moving. "Did you hear that?" I asked. He nodded. "Do you think it was a dog or—" He didn't answer. He just turned and walked away. The next morning, I went out for a walk. My aunt told me to stay close to the house, but I wanted to look around the village. It was so quiet. No cars, no people shouting, just chickens walking. In the road and smoke coming out of a few chimneys near the old well, I saw an old man sitting on a wooden bench. He had a long grey beard and one eye that looked cloudy. He stared at me as I passed by. "You're not from here," he said. I stopped. "I'm staying with my aunt. She lives near the woods." He didn't blink. "Rafiq's aunt." I nodded. "He's my cousin." The old man leaned forward. His voice dropped. "Don't go into the forest after sundown. You hear me?" I laughed a little. "Why not?" He didn't laugh back. "Because the trees remember." I frowned. "What does that mean?" They know who walks under them, he said. They remember who came back and who didn't. I looked at him, not sure if he was joking. You're talking about Rafik, right? The old man nodded slowly. That boy wasn't right after he got lost last year. He was gone for a whole night. People looked for him. Then he came back in the morning. Said nothing, just stared. Quiet as a grave. Maybe he got scared, I said. The old man leaned. Closer. You ever see a shadow that moves when you don't? Ever hear your name when no one's calling? I shook my head. You will if you stay here too long. The forest don't like strangers. I said nothing, just turned and walked back toward the house. His voice followed me. Don't go into the woods, and if you do, don't talk to anything that talks first. I got back home feeling weird. That old man gave me chills, even though I didn't believe him, but still, something about what he said stuck in my head. Inside, my aunt was cooking. Rafik sat at the table, staring at the floor. Where were you? She asked. Just walking around, I said. Met a guy near the well. My aunt's face tightened a bit. Old Majid. Yeah, I think so. She didn't say anything, just kept stirring the pot. At dinner, I tried to make a conversation. So, Rafik, I said, what happened last summer? I heard you got lost in the woods. He didn't look up. He poked at his food with his fork. I wasn't lost, he said. They just didn't find me. Who? I asked. He didn't answer. My aunt gave me a sharp look, like she didn't want me to ask more. The rest of dinner was quiet. That night, I had trouble sleeping. I kept thinking about what the old man said. The trees, remember? I looked out the window. The forest looked closer than before, like it had moved while I wasn't looking. I pulled the blanket over my head. Then I heard something. A voice, faint, right outside the window. It whispered my name, just once, soft and slow. Hey, I froze, didn't move, didn't breathe. My heart pounded in my ears. I peeked through the curtain. No one was there, but I saw something. A shape, tall, thin, standing just at the edge of the trees. Not moving, then it was gone. I closed the curtain fast and got back into bed. I didn't sleep after that the next morning. Rafik finally talked more. Wanna go to the forest? He asked, like it was no big deal. I looked at him now. He nodded, like old times. I was a little nervous, but I didn't want to seem scared. I shrugged. Yeah, okay. We told my aunt we were going outside. She just said, be back before dark. Without looking up from the dishes, the trees started right behind the house. We followed a narrow dirt path that led between them. At first, it felt normal. The sun was up, and the leaves made patterns on the ground. I started to relax. We walked side by side, like we used to. Rafik smiled a little. It felt nice. I remembered how we used to race, climb trees, throw rocks at bushes to scare each other. But the deeper we went, the darker it got. The trees grew closer together. The path was harder to see. Some branches were twisted, like they didn't grow right. The bark looked burned in places. Did a fire come through here? I asked. Rafik shook his head. No, we kept walking. He stopped talking again. I noticed how the forest got quiet. No birds, no bugs, just our footsteps and the sound of leaves crunching. Then we reached a place I didn't remember. There was a wide open spot in the middle of the trees. The ground was smooth dirt, no grass. In the center was a circle made of old grey stones. They were placed too neatly to be natural. Inside the circle was a tree stump, thick, hollow in the center. "What is this?" I asked. Rafiq stepped into the circle. "I don't know. You've never seen this before." He shook his head. "I came close once, but I never saw this. I stayed outside the stones." Something about the stump made me feel cold inside. Not from the air, from the way it looked. Like it didn't belong here. Rafiq knelt beside the stump and stared into it. "It's empty," he said, "but I feel something." I stepped closer, just to the edge of the stone circle. The stump was wide, with a dark hole in the middle. It wasn't rotten. It was clean, too clean, like someone had cut it smooth and polished it. Then I noticed a low sound, a soft hum, not from the wind, not from bugs, a slow, deep tone, like it came from the earth. "Do you hear that?" I asked. Rafiq didn't answer. "Rafiq," he stood up fast, his body stiff. "Do you hear it too?" he said. "What is it?" He didn't blink. His voice sounded far away. "It's calling." "Calling who?" He turned and looked right at me. Me. I stepped back. "Okay, joke's over." "I'm not joking," he said. "It's been calling since last summer. I found this place before, but I didn't come close." I looked around. The trees around the circle were leaning inward, like they were bowing toward the stump. I swear they hadn't been like that when we first walked in. "We should go," I said. Rafiq didn't move. "It's not done." I grabbed his arm. "Rafiq, let's go now." He blinked and looked at me like he just woke up. Then he nodded. Slowly, "Okay." We turned around and walked fast back through the trees. I didn't talk, neither did he. It took longer to get back than I remembered. At one point, I turned around to check behind us. The path we came from was gone, just trees. We didn't stop. We didn't say a word. Finally, we saw the back of the house. We ran the last part. When we got inside, my aunt looked up and frowned. "You're late." I glanced at the clock. It was almost dark. "I thought we were only gone an hour," I said. "You were gone almost 4, she said. Rafiq sat down at the table. His hands were shaking. He looked at me and whispered, "It's louder now." The next day, Rafiq wanted to go back to the forest. I said no at first, but he just stared at me. "I need to hear it again," he said. I didn't want him to go alone, so I went with him. We followed the same path as before, same twisted trees, same dead silence. We didn't talk, not even once. When we reached the stone circle, I stopped. "Let's not go in this time," I said. Rafiq didn't answer. He walked around the edge of the circle, eyes on the stump. Then he turned his head, like he was listening to something. I looked away for 1 second, just to check behind us. I swear it was 1 second. When I turned back, Rafiq was gone. Not walking, not running, just gone. I called his name, Rafiq. No answer. I ran into the circle, heart pounding. I looked behind the stump, around the trees, everywhere. Nothing Rafiq. I yelled again, louder. This isn't funny. Still nothing. I listened. No footsteps, no breathing, no snapping branches, just silence. A heavy, strange silence that felt too thick, like the forest itself was holding its breath. I checked the ground. No footprints, no signs of him. I searched for hours. I ran up and down paths I didn't recognize. Every tree looked the same. I tried to follow the sun, but the sky was too cloudy. I shouted until my voice hurt. My legs got tired. My mouth was dry, but I kept looking. Then I saw something strange. The same stone circle again. Somehow, I had gone in a full loop, but I never turned around. I backed away, scared. I didn't know what else to do, so I ran toward where I thought the house was. I didn't stop until I saw the edge of the village. When I burst into the house, I was shaking, Auntie. I yelled Rafiq's, gone. She looked up from the table. She didn't seem surprised. What do you mean, gone? She asked. He was right in front of me, I said. Then he just disappeared. I looked everywhere. She stood up slowly and walked to the window. Then she said something I'll never forget. He always comes back. What? I said. Her voice was calm, too calm. It happens sometimes. He leaves, then he returns. You're not worried, she shook her head. You'll see. He won't be gone long. I stared at her. She went back to her chair like nothing had happened. I wanted to scream, but I just sat down, breathing hard, hands shaking. She was making tea, humming to herself, and all I could think was, what if he doesn't come back this time? I didn't sleep that night. I kept listening for the door, for footsteps, for something, but the house stayed quiet. In the morning, I was still sitting in bed, wide awake. When I heard the front door open, I jumped up and ran to the hallway. Rafiq was standing. There, he was barefoot. His clothes were dirty. His shirt was torn. His skin was covered in mud and scratches. But that's not what stopped me. It was his face. His eyes were gone, not hurt. Not bleeding, just ... gone. Where his eyes should have been, there was only smooth skin, like he was born that way. Like his face was never supposed to have eyes. But the worst part, he was looking right at me, Rafiq, I whispered. He smiled a little. I'm back. My voice got stuck in my throat. I stepped back. My aunt walked in from the kitchen. She looked at him and said, "Go wash up. Breakfast is almost ready." I turned to her, shocked. "Do you not see he's fine?" she said. Calm, like this was normal. "He has no eyes," I yelled. She didn't answer. She just walked back into the kitchen. Rafiq stood in the hallway, still smiling. "How? Are you looking at me?" I asked. He tilted his head. "I can still see, just not the way you do." My stomach twisted. "What happened?" I asked. "They showed me," he said. "Who?" He didn't reply. He walked past me, leaving small muddy footprints on the floor. He went to the bathroom and shut the door. I stood there frozen. Later, he sat at the table eating eggs like nothing was wrong. He held the fork perfectly, poured his own tea, didn't spill anything. I kept staring at his face, at that smooth, empty skin, like a mask. He spoke between bites. "I feel lighter now." I didn't say anything. I just kept watching him. A few minutes later, my aunt said, "Why don't you two go play outside?" Like before, I looked at her like she was crazy. "We can't just pretend this is normal." She wiped her hands on a towel and looked at me. "You're our guest. Please don't make things harder." I wanted to scream. I wanted to run, but I didn't know where to go. Rafiq finished his tea and stood up. "Want to go to the stump again?" "No," I said quickly. He smiled again. "It's okay. It doesn't hurt. I'm not going back in there." He didn't push. He just nodded. I watched him walk to the window and stand there, staring, or whatever he was doing now. My hands were shaking. I wanted to call my parents, tell them to come get me. but the phone line wasn't working. All I could do was sit there, waiting, watching Rafiq, trying to figure out what he had become that night. I woke up to a sound, soft footsteps, slow, bare feet on the wooden floor. At first, I thought it was my aunt, but then I heard whispering. I sat up and listened hard. The sound was coming from the hallway. I got out of bed and opened the door quietly. The house was dark, but I could still see a little. The whispering was clearer now. I followed it. It was Rafiq. He was standing at the back door. It was wide open. He was just standing there, facing the trees, whispering to them. His voice was low. I couldn't hear the words, just the sound of it soft, careful, almost like a prayer. I walked up behind him. Rafiq, I said. He didn't jump, didn't even flinch. Who are you talking to? He tilted his head slightly. They're listening. He said, who? He pointed out into the woods. Them. There was nothing out there, just trees, dark shapes in the night. Why are you whispering? I asked. So they know I still hear them, he said. Even without eyes, I stepped back a little. This isn't normal, Rafiq. He turned toward me. His face was calm. No fear, no anger. Just that same smooth skin where his eyes used to be. They gave me new sight, he said. Better than before. I didn't know what to say. My mouth felt dry. My hands were cold. You should listen to, he added. They'll speak to you soon. I shook my head. No, I don't want that. He smiled. You will. Then he turned back to the trees and kept whispering. I didn't want to stay. I went back to my room and shut the door. I locked it. I lay in bed, but I couldn't sleep. My mind kept going back to his voice, to what he said. They gave me new sight. I didn't even notice when I finally fell asleep. In the dream, I was standing in the forest, but everything was wrong. The trees were taller than buildings. The ground was soft, like skin. The sky was red. I heard my name, whispered from under the dirt. I looked down. The ground moved, like something was alive underneath. Then hands came up, grey, thin, with long fingers. They grabbed my feet and pulled me under. I tried to scream, but my mouth was full of soil. I was being swallowed by the forest. I saw roots wrap around my arms and legs like ropes. I felt them digging into my skin. Just before everything went black, I saw Rafiq. He was standing over me, smiling. He whispered, "You'll see too." I woke up gasping, sweating. I threw off the blanket and sat up. My hands were dirty, both of them covered in mud, and under my fingernails packed in tight was soil, like I'd been digging. I couldn't stop thinking about the dirt under my nails. I washed my hands 3 times, scrubbed them until the skin turned red, but I still felt it, like the forest had touched me and wouldn't let go that morning. Rafiq acted like nothing happened. He sat at the table, drinking tea, humming to himself. His face still had no eyes, but he poured tea without spilling a drop. I stared at him. He smiled. "Did you sleep well?" I didn't answer. Something inside me said, "Find answers." So when no one was watching, I went upstairs. I opened the door to the attic. It smelled like dust and old clothes. I climbed up the creaky steps and looked around boxes, blankets, an old broken lamp. I opened a few boxes, just junk. Then I found a small wooden chest. It was locked, but the lid was cracked. I pulled it open and found a notebook inside. It was worn and dirty, like it had been used a lot. The name on the first page was Rafiq's. I sat down and started reading at first. It was normal, boring stuff. Dates, little drawings, notes about school, a list of favorite foods. Then it changed. The writing got messy. The drawings got darker. One page had a drawing of the forest. The trees looked sharp, like they had teeth. Another page showed the stone circle with the stump in the middle. There were tiny figures standing around it. Some had no faces. Then the words got strange. I hear them in my sleep. They live in the roots. They don't like the light. One page made me stop breathing. It had just one line, written over and over again. They see through the dark. The next page had a big drawing of a face, except there were no eyes, just smooth skin. Under it, Rafiq had written, "They offered me something." I said yes. My hands started shaking. He made a deal with something in the forest. I flipped to the last page. The handwriting was wild. The lines weren't straight. It said, "You can't unsee once they show you. They whisper through the soil, through the bark, through me." There was one more drawing. A picture of the stump, but inside it, there were shapes, like shadows, eyes. So many eyes, except not on the stump. They were inside the hollow, watching. I closed the book. My heart was racing. I'd put the notebook in my backpack and climbed down from the attic. Downstairs, Rafiq was still sitting there, still humming. He turned his head toward me. "You found it, didn't you?" he said. I froze. "What?" "The journal," he said. "I knew you'd go looking." I didn't answer. "They don't like secrets," he added. "But they said, it's okay, you were always meant to know." I stepped back. "What did you give them, Rafiq?" He smiled, but it wasn't a happy smile. "I gave them what they asked for, my sight, and in return, they opened everything else." "What does that mean?" He stood up slowly. "You'll see." Then he walked away into his room. I sat down hard on the floor. I didn't want to see, but I had already read the words, and I couldn't unread them. I couldn't stay in the house anymore. I had to know what was inside that tree. What it really was. Rafiq had changed. The journal was real. The dreams were getting worse, and every time I looked at the forest, I felt like it was calling me. So I waited until my aunt and Rafiq were busy in the kitchen. Then I left. I didn't tell anyone. I just walked straight into the woods. The path was easy to find, like the trees had cleared the way for me. I didn't even have to think about where I was going. It was like my feet already knew. I walked fast. I didn't stop. I didn't look back. After a while, I saw the stone circle. It looked the same, but the stump in the middle. It was glowing, just a little. A faint green light came from inside the hollow. It wasn't bright, but it was enough to see the inside. I stepped closer. The humming sound was louder now. And then I heard something worse. Voices, whispers, low and soft, like someone was talking under the ground. Leaned forward. The voices were coming from inside the stump. One of them sounded like a child, one sounded like a woman, and then one sounded like me. It said my name, clear and slow, double quotes, ... I jumped back, but my legs didn't move far. I couldn't run. I didn't want to. Something deep inside me said, "Don't leave." I looked down at the stump again. It was still glowing, still whispering my name again, ... Hey, my voice, exactly like mine, but lower, like it was coming from under the earth. Then, I felt it, something pulling me down inside, not with hands, but with a feeling like my body wanted to kneel, like my knees were getting heavy. I fought it, but it got harder. The longer I stood there, the more I felt like I had to kneel just once. Just bow my head and look inside. That's all. My legs shook. I dropped to one knee. The air felt thick. My ears rang. My skin tingled like it was full of pins. I looked into the hollow dot. It wasn't empty anymore. There were shapes inside, not clear, not full bodies, just dark things, moving, watching. I couldn't see eyes, but I felt them. They were looking at me, through the stump, through the ground, through everything. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't think. I leaned forward more. Something whispered. Again, closer this time, right in my ear. It's your turn. My hands touched the dirt. My head started to lower. Then a sound behind me. Footsteps, fast. I turned. It was Rafik, running straight toward me. Get away from it, he shouted. I stumbled. Back, he grabbed my arm and pulled me away from the circle. We ran, no talking, no stopping. We didn't look back. When we reached the edge of the forest, I fell to my knees, gasping for air. Rafik stood over me, still holding my arm. You almost did it, he said. His voice was calm again. They almost had you. I looked up at him. What are they? I asked. He didn't answer. He just looked toward the trees and smiled. We didn't talk on the way back. Rafik walked behind me, quiet. I didn't know what to say. My chest still hurt from running. My head felt heavy, like something was pushing on it from the inside. But later that night, I woke up again. The sound was back, whispers, soft, like wind. But not wind, voices calling me. I sat up in bed, sweating. I tried to ignore them, but they got louder, not angry, just there, all around me, and my body moved on its own. I got out of bed. I walked outside, barefoot. I didn't even grab a flashlight. The forest waited for me. The trees didn't feel scary anymore. They felt familiar, like I belonged there now. The path was easy to follow again. The air felt thick, but not cold, almost warm. The stone circle was waiting. The stump glowed softly. The whispers grew louder the closer I got. And I understood them now, not words, but feelings. Welcome, come closer, let go. I stepped into the circle. My feet stopped at the edge of the stump. I looked inside. It wasn't empty. It was full of moving shapes. Not people, not animals, just dark things, like smoke and shadows. But they had form, they had thoughts, and they were speaking to me. I felt it in my bones. It's easier when you give in. The voice came from behind me. I turned. It was Rafik. He stood just outside the circle, calm, eyeless, his hands at his sides. He looked peaceful. They don't want to hurt you, he said. They want to show you. All of it. What's underneath. What's real. I don't want to see, I said. But you already did, he whispered. You felt it. You just haven't accepted it. I looked back into the stump. The light inside pulsed slowly, like a heartbeat, and I could feel it inside. My chest a dot. My legs got weak. My knees bent. I dropped to the ground. The stump pulled at me, not with hands, but with need. I wanted to see. I wanted to know. What was it like? What did Rafik see? Why? Did he give his eyes? I leaned forward. The whispers turned gentle, like they were singing now. A low, soft sound that wrapped around me. Rafik stepped closer. They'll make you whole, he said. You'll never be scared again. My fingers touched the edge of the stump. The glow lit up my face. I was inches away. I felt calm. Too calm, like nothing mattered. No fear, no worry, no pain, just the dark, the roots, the truth. But then something hit me. I didn't want to lose myself. I didn't want to end up like him. I'd pulled my hand back, stumbled to my feet. Rafik didn't stop me. He just watched as I backed away. I turned and I ran. Fast branches hit my arms. Roots grabbed at my feet. But I didn't stop. I ran until I saw the edge of the trees. I fell to the ground just outside the forest. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't stand. I curled up in the dirt and cried hard. Not because I was scared, but because part of me still wanted to go back. I left the village the next morning. I didn't say goodbye. I didn't pack my things. I just walked to the road, stuck out my thumb, and waited for someone to stop. A truck driver picked me up. He asked if I was okay. I lied and said I was fine. He didn't ask again. I didn't go home. I went to my uncle's place in the city. I told my parents I got sick and needed rest. I didn't tell them about Rafik, or the forest, or the stump, but something followed me. It started small. I was brushing my teeth one night, and I saw something move in the bathroom. Mirror just for a second, a dark shape behind me. When I turned around, nothing was there. It kept happening in mirrors, in windows, in shiny surfaces. A flicker, a shadow. Always just out of sight. Then I started hearing my name, soft, like a whisper. Hey. I'd be in bed, almost asleep, and I'd hear it right next to my ear. Sometimes I'd wake up standing in the hallway. Once, I woke up outside, barefoot, mud on my hands. I didn't remember getting up. I started locking my door at night. Didn't matter, every morning. The lock was open. My nails were always dirty. My feet always cold, like I'd been walking. Then the trees started showing up. Not real ones, not full trees, just drawings, on walls, on mirrors, on the pages of books I hadn't opened. One time, I saw bark growing out of the drain in the sink. I blinked, and it was gone. I tried telling someone once. My cousin from the city. He laughed, said I needed more sleep, but he didn't see what I saw. He didn't feel the pull, the same one I felt that night by the stump, like something was waiting, watching, waiting for me to come back. I started hearing the humming again, that low sound, like the one in the forest. It was under my bed, behind the closet door. In the corners of the room, it never stopped. And then 3 nights, a goy found something in my room, my backpack, the one I brought from the village. I had left it there, but it was back and inside. Wrapped in an old shirt was the notebook, Rafik's journal. I never brought it with me, I swear, I didn't. But there it was, and a new page had been added, written in that same shaky handwriting. Just one line, you'll see when it's your turn. I'm recording this because I don't know how much time I have left before I stop being me. The sleepwalking is getting worse. The whispers are louder. And last night, I looked in the mirror. I swear my eyes looked different. Not wrong, just less. Like something behind them was missing. Like there's a part of me already gone. Like I left it behind in that forest up with them. They're still watching me. I think I left my eyes behind. My doorbell rang every night at 3:12 a.m. No one was there. You can ignore the first time, maybe even the second. But when the doorbell rings at exactly 3:12 a.m. every night, you know it's not a coincidence. I live alone. It's a small house on a quiet street. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, a kitchen, and a tiny porch out front. My neighbors keep to themselves. I like it that way. Every day is pretty much the same. I get up at 7, go to work by 8, and come home around 5:30. I make dinner, clean up, maybe read a little or watch TV. Then I go to bed around 11. It's boring, I know, but I like routine. I don't like surprises. That night started like any other. I made pasta, ate while watching a show, then brushed my teeth and got in bed. I turned off the light and checked my phone one last time. It was 11:03 p.m. I fell asleep fast. Then, at some point in the night, I heard it. Dung-dong. My eyes opened right away. I checked my phone. The time said 3:12 a.m. I thought I was dreaming at first, but then I heard it again. Ding-dong, the doorbell. I sat up, heart pounding. Who rings someone's doorbell in the middle of the night? I got out of bed and walked to the window. My porch light was on, but I didn't see anyone out there. I waited a few seconds. Nothing. I opened the curtain wider and leaned closer. Still nothing. Maybe a delivery. But at 3 a.m., no way. I stood there, confused. Then I opened the front door just a crack and looked out. No package, no person, no car, just empty street. I stepped onto the porch. It was quiet. The kind of quiet that feels too quiet. I looked around. One more time, still nothing. I went back inside and locked the door. Maybe it was kids messing around. A prank. Ding-dong ditch or something. But most of the houses on this street are old people. No one has kids around here. I tried not to think about it. I got back in bed and turned to face the wall. I told myself it was probably just a one-time thing. It wasn't. The next night, I couldn't sleep. I kept checking the clock. Every few minutes, I looked over to see the time. My eyes were heavy, but my mind wouldn't stop thinking about that doorbell. I told myself it was just a weird prank. Maybe someone passing by. Maybe I dreamed it. But part of me didn't believe that. At 2:45 a.m., I got out of bed. I didn't turn. On the lights, I went to the front window and pulled the curtain back, just enough to see the porch. I stood there and waited. Nothing moved. The street was empty. The porch light was on, and I could see the front steps clearly. I kept my eyes on the doorbell. If someone came up, I would see them. At 3 o'clock, I started to feel silly. Maybe I really was overthinking this. Then, at 3:12, exactly, it happened again. Ding-dong. I froze. My eyes were wide open, staring straight at the porch. But no one was there. I didn't blink. I didn't move. I just kept staring. The doorbell had rung. I heard it with my own ears. I should have seen someone, but the porch was completely empty. I waited another minute. Still nothing. I unlocked the door, opened it slowly, and stepped outside. I looked around. No cars, no footsteps, no wind, just the porch light buzzing and the empty street ahead. I checked my phone. 3:14 a.m. I stood there for a minute more, then went back inside. I locked the door, then I locked it again. Top and bottom. I checked the back door too. Locked. I looked out every window in the house. Everything seemed fine. Still, I didn't feel fine. I went back to bed, but I didn't sleep. The whole time, I just kept thinking. I watched that porch. I stared at the doorbell. I would have seen someone walk up, but I didn't, so how did it ring? The third night, I didn't even try to sleep. I stayed up on purpose. I made coffee around midnight and sat by the living room window, staring out at the porch. I left all the lights off except the one above the door. I wanted to see clearly if someone came. Part of me hoped nothing would happen, but another part, I don't know. I guess I wanted to prove I wasn't going crazy. The clock on my phone ticked past 3 a.m. I sat up straighter. At 3:12, right on time, ding dong, my stomach dropped. I was already looking at the porch, but just like the night before, no one was. There nothing moved. No sound, no figure walking up. Just the bell. Just that one ring. But this time, something was different. I leaned forward and squinted at the ground. There were footprints, wet ones. Not muddy, not dirty, just wet. Like someone had stepped out of a shower and walked barefoot up to the door. I stood up fast and opened the front door. The air felt strange. Still, too still. I looked down. The prints were clearer now. Bare feet. Small. Not kid-sized, but not big either. Almost like a teenager's. They started at the edge of the porch and stopped right at the door. But that's it. They stopped there. No prints walking away. I stepped outside and looked around. Nothing. No cars. No people. No animals. Just the sound of my own breathing. I looked down again. Still only one set of prints. Coming up, none going back. I crouched down and touched one with my fingers. It was cold and damp. Real, not my imagination. I backed up into the house and locked the door again. I checked the time. 3:14 a.m. Same as before, same as always. I sat on the couch, staring at the door. My heart was racing. I told myself it had to be some kind of prank. Maybe someone stepped up, rang the bell, and ran off across the grass or something. But the grass was dry. No marks. No bent blades. The only signs were those prints. And they only came one way. What kind of person walks barefoot through a quiet street at 3 in the morning just to ring a bell and leave? I couldn't explain it. The worst part, I started wondering, if it was me, what if I was sleepwalking? What if I was doing this to myself without knowing? I stood up and went into the bathroom, checked my feet. They were dry, clean, no dirt, no water, nothing that matched what I saw on the porch. Still, it stuck in my head. What if I wasn't alone in this house at night? What if I was moving around and didn't remember? Or worse, what if someone else was? Someone I couldn't see. Went back to the living room and sat on the floor with my back to the door. I stayed there until the sky started turning blue that morning. I cleaned off the porch, wiped every print away, but deep down, I knew it didn't matter. They'd come back. They always came back. I needed proof. Something was happening at 3:12 every night, and I wanted to know what. If it was some kid playing games or a neighbor messing with me, I'd catch them, so I set up my old security camera. It's small, cheap, but good enough. I placed it on the window ledge, facing the porch. It had night vision and a motion sensor. I tested it twice. Everything worked. That night, I didn't bother staying up. I wanted to watch the footage with a clear head. So I turned on the camera, made sure it was recording, and went to bed. I had trouble falling asleep. My brain kept going in circles. What if it's a glitch? What if I see something worse? What if there's nothing at all? But I finally drifted off. When I woke up, the first thing I did was grab my phone and pull up the camera app. The time was 7:23 a.m. The file was there, over 8 hours long. I skipped through most of it, sliding the playback bar forward in chunks. Midnight, nothing. 2:30 a.m., still nothing. I held my breath and skipped. 2:11 a.m. There it was, my porch, still empty. I watched the timer hit 3:12 a.m. Dong ding dash dong. I jumped a little, even though I expected it, but the screen showed no one, no figure, no shadow. Nothing moved. The bell had clearly rung, but the porch was completely empty. I rewound and watched again. Same thing, the doorbell sound played. The porch light stayed on, but no person ever appeared. Then something even weirder happened. The video glitched right after the doorbell sound. The screen froze for a second, then went black. It stayed black for about 7 seconds. No error message, no warning, just darkness. Then the video came back. Porch still empty, like nothing happened. I stared at the screen, confused. I backed it up again and watched those exact seconds closely. The moment the bell rang, nothing, then blackness, then the porch again. Exactly how it looked before. It was like someone cut that part out. I checked the camera settings. The power was fine. The memory card wasn't full. There was no motion alert during the blackout. It was like the camera just stopped recording only during those 7 seconds. I checked the system log. Nothing useful. It just said no signal from 3 hours, 12 minutes and 8 seconds to 3 hours, 12 minutes and 15 seconds. Exactly 7 seconds. I stared at the screen for a long time. Then I went outside. I checked the porch with my own eyes. No footprints this time. No marks. No damage. Just the quiet. I looked up at the doorbell. It was working fine. I pressed it. Heard the chime inside. Everything normal, except it wasn't. Something rang that bell last night. Something caused the camera to black out. And whatever it was, it didn't show up on video. Not even a shadow. I left the camera running again that night, but I didn't sleep. I sat by the window with my phone in my hand, watching the porch live, waiting for 3:12. And even though I told myself I was ready, part of me hoped it wouldn't happen again, because deep down, I knew this wasn't a prank. This wasn't something I could explain. Something was coming to my door, and my camera couldn't even see it. That night, I didn't set up the camera. I didn't want to watch another blackout. I didn't want proof. I already knew something was coming. I just didn't know what it wanted. I stayed in the living room again, lights off, phone in hand. Just like before, I didn't sit by the window this time. I sat on the floor, far from the door. I could still see the porch through the edge of the curtain. I watched the clock, 3:11 a.m. My heart started racing. Then, at 3:12, like always ding-dong, I didn't move. The porch looked empty again, just light, no shadow, no person. I waited. This time, I didn't go to the door. I just stared, hoping it would end. But it didn't. After about 10 seconds, knock. A slow, heavy hit on the door. Then, another dot. I felt the floor shake under me. Not loud, but strong, like someone using the side of their fist. Knock, 3 in total. I couldn't breathe, my back pressed into the wall. I didn't want to make a sound. Then nothing. I waited. A full minute passed. Then I heard it breathing, on the other side of the door, right behind it. It wasn't fast breathing, it was slow and steady, like someone standing there, calm, waiting. I didn't move, I didn't even blink. The breathing kept going for maybe 30 seconds, then silence. Complete silence. No footsteps. No more knocks, just nothing. I sat frozen for a long time. I don't even know how long. I couldn't look away from the door. I kept thinking it would start again, that the knock would come back, or the voice. But it never did. Around 5 a.m., the sky started to lighten. I got up and looked through the peephole. Empty porch. I opened the door just a crack. No one. I stepped outside. No footprints, no wet marks, no sign that anyone had been there. But I knew what I heard. That knocking was real, and so was the breathing. It didn't want to scare me anymore. It wanted me to open the door. And I think, one night soon, I might. I didn't go to work that day. I didn't sleep the night before, and I couldn't stop thinking about the knocking, the breathing, the way it stood there, silent, like it was waiting for me to make the next move. I stayed in bed most of the day, didn't eat much. I just kept checking the time, watching the hours crawl toward midnight again. I thought about staying at a hotel or calling someone over. But I didn't, single quotes, T.Y. I don't know. I think I wanted to know what would happen next. That night, I sat in the same spot as before, across the living room, far from the door, eyes fixed on the hallway. I didn't need to see the porch anymore. I already knew what time it would happen. 3:12 a.m. I had my phone in my hand again. The screen lit up the time. It was 3:11. I didn't move. Ding, dong. Right on time, I stared at the door. Didn't blink. Didn't breathe. Knock. Just one, this time. Then silence. I waited. Then I heard it. A voice. It came from the other side of the door. And it was my voice. It said, clearly, in the exact tone I had used earlier that day, I should just get rid of this thing. That's what I said earlier when I tripped over the welcome mat. I was annoyed and talking to myself. Now, my voice was repeating it, slowly, like it was practicing. I should just get rid of this thing. Same rhythm, same words, but wrong it. Sounded flat, like someone copying my voice, like someone learning how to be me. I didn't move. I didn't speak. Then it said something else, still in my voice. Why don't you open the door? Soft, friendly, like a question I would ask a friend, but it wasn't friendly. It made my stomach twist. Then it said something that made me feel sick. You're already halfway here. I got up and backed away, fast. I didn't look out the peephole. I didn't check the lock. I just ran to the kitchen and grabbed the biggest knife I could find. I stood there, holding it, my back to the fridge. Staring at the hallway, the voice didn't come again. The bell didn't ring again. It was like nothing ever happened. I waited until sunrise, when it got light out. I finally unlocked the door. I opened it slowly. No one there, no footprints, no scratches, no marks. But one thing was different. My welcome mat, the one that always sat outside, under the door, was inside now, lying flat, just a few inches past the front door. It wasn't rolled or folded. It looked like it had been pulled in, like someone opened the door just enough, and dragged it through. I backed away and shut the door hard. Locked it, top and bottom. I stared at the mat. I didn't remember opening the door last night. I don't think I did, but now I wasn't so sure anymore. Maybe I was sleepwalking. Maybe I lost a few seconds. Or maybe it was telling the truth. Maybe I am halfway there. I needed answers. I couldn't just sit around waiting for 312 to happen again. I had to find out if this had happened before, if anyone else had been through it. So I started looking into the house. First, I checked the sale records online. My place had been owned by 3 people before me. The last owner was a man named David Kramer. He lived here alone too. I tried to find more info on him. Nothing recent, no social media, no job history. But I found something strange on a local forum. It was an old post, almost 6 years old. The title said, "Weird stuff happening at night. Doorbell won't stop." I clicked it. The person wrote about someone ringing their doorbell every night. Around 3 a.m., they thought it was a prank, but then the doorbell started ringing on its own. The camera showed nothing. The lights glitched. They heard sounds, breathing, even their own voice. My stomach dropped. It was everything I'd been dealing with at the end of the post. There were just 5 words. "Never open the door, ever." That was the last post the user made. No replies, no follow dash-ups. I searched the name, David Kramer. Then I found a news article. It was short. Local man disappears from home. No signs of forced entry. House left unlocked. No leads. No other details, no updates. He was just ... gone. Same house, same door, same time. I closed my laptop and just sat there. I didn't want to believe it, but I knew I wasn't the first. I thought about calling the police, but what would I say? "Hey, something invisible is ringing my doorbell and stealing my welcome mat." They'd think I was nuts. I tried to pack a bag. I thought maybe I could stay at a hotel or sleep at a friend's place for a few days, but I didn't go. I don't know why. I kept feeling like I had to stay. Like something was waiting. Like I couldn't leave until I understood it. I didn't even try sleeping that night. I just sat in bed, staring at the wall, thinking about the post. Thinking about the guy who lived here before me. Thinking about those 5 words. Never open the door. I kept repeating it in my head, but deep down, I already knew something was wrong. Because lately, the door didn't feel like the problem. It felt like the only way out. That night, I stopped fighting it. I didn't hide in bed or sit far away. I pulled a chair up right in front of the door. I turned off every light in the house, except the porch light. I sat there, phone in hand, watching the time, 3:08 a.m. I stared at the door. It looked normal, just wood and paint. But it felt like it was breathing, like something behind it already knew I was there. 3:10. My hands were shaking, but I didn't move. I didn't blink. 3:11. I leaned forward in the chair, waiting. 3:12. Ding dash dong dot. The sound hit me hard. Even though I expected it, I jumped, then dashed nothing, just like always. But I could feel it. Something was close. Knock, a heavy hit. Just once, then another knock. I leaned closer, my ear just inches from the wood. Knock, then it stopped. I waited, my heart was pounding so loud I could barely hear. And then I did hear it. A whisper, right behind the door. It was soft, like someone leaning in close. Just a breath away. It said my name, Not loud, not angry, just gentle, like someone who knew me. "Hey!" I didn't answer. The whisper came again. "You're right there. I know you are." I couldn't breathe. Then I did something I never thought I'd do. I reached out and unlocked the door. I didn't open it, but I turned the deadbolt. Slowly, quietly. The sound was so loud in the silence. Clicked now. Nothing was stopping it from coming in, except the handle. I sat there, staring at the knob. That's when I heard it again. Scratch. Scratch. It wasn't knocking anymore. It was scratching, like nails or claws, gently dragging across the wood, slow, back and forth, over and over, right where my hand had just been. Scratch, scratch, scratch. Then it stopped, and a voice spoke. But it wasn't mine this time, and it wasn't a whisper. It was clear and close. A woman's voice, soft, cold, and not familiar. "Let me in. I couldn't move. Please." The voice said. It didn't sound angry. It sounded sad, like it was begging, like it was lonely. Then it changed. "Let me in," it said again, but sharper now. Louder. I still didn't move. Then the voice said something that froze me. "You already did." I stood up fast, the chair scraping across the floor behind me. I backed away from the door. Step by step, my eyes stayed locked on the handle. It didn't move. Nothing came in. I waited. Minutes passed. No more voice, no more sounds. Just that door, still, closed, still unlocked. I stayed awake until the sun came up. Then I locked it again, slowly, like it mattered. But I knew it didn't, because whatever that thing was, it didn't need me to open the door anymore. It already knew how to get in. I don't remember why I opened the door. I just did. I don't think I meant to. 1 second, I was staring at the handle. The next, it was turning in my hand. The latch clicked. The hinges groaned and then opened. The hallway wasn't there. It should have been. I knew what I should have seen: my porch, the street lamp, the neighbor's fence. But none of that was outside. It was black, not dark black, like there was no space at all. Like I was staring into a hole that wasn't part of the world. But I felt something. It was there, just past the doorway, not touching me, but close. Something watching, something waiting. I didn't step forward. I didn't move, but the world around me did it, shifted. The floor was no longer under my feet. I didn't fall, I just wasn't standing anymore. I don't know where I am now. This is being recorded, I think. I hope. My voice might sound strange. That's because I don't feel like I'm talking with my mouth. It's more like I'm remembering the sound of speaking. The place I'm in now doesn't look like anything I've ever seen. There are walls, I think, but they bend. They stretch when I try to look at them, like they don't want to be seen. I walked for what felt like hours, but when I turned around, the door was still right behind me, always behind me. Even when I closed my eyes, even when I ran, the door is always there, and the sound, it never stops. Ding dash dong dot every few minutes, or seconds, or hours. I can't tell anymore. Dung dash dong dot, it echoes, but not from behind the door. It's coming from the inside, from wherever I am now. Sometimes I see shapes, not people, not animals, just things, moving slowly, crawling along the walls. Once I saw a figure. It stood in the corner, half in shadow. It had no face, just smooth skin where the eyes and mouth should be. It didn't move. It just stood there, and I knew it had been the one at my door. I don't know how, but I knew. And I think it knows me now. It copies me, the way I stand, the way I tilt my head. Sometimes I hear my own voice in the distance, talking about things I haven't said yet. Yesterday, or maybe today, heard myself say, "Let me in." And I wasn't even thinking it. I try not to speak now. I think the more I talk, the more it learns. I think the more I listen, the more I forget. There are no windows here, no clocks, just doors that lead nowhere and halls that loop back on themselves. But the door to my house, the one I opened, it's always behind me, and I can't close it. I've tried, but every time I touch the handle, I see things. People with no eyes, rooms filled with mirrors that don't reflect me, and my own front porch, empty except for a shadow. Standing at the edge, the shadow never leaves. It just waits for someone new to open the door. Sometimes I wonder if I'm still in my house. Maybe this is the hallway. Maybe this is what was always waiting. Behind that door, I don't know how much longer I can stay here. I don't feel tired, but I feel worn down, like something is pulling me apart, slowly, thought by thought, memory by memory. I don't remember what my real name is anymore, or what day it is. All I know is the sound ding dash dong. It's closer now. It used to be outside, then it was behind the door, then it was in the hallway, and now I think it's inside the house, inside me. If you find this, don't open the door, please. Even if it's just one ring, even if it sounds like your voice, don't open it, because once you do, it never really closes. A stranger broke into my house and just sat in the dark. Most intruders come to steal something, but this one didn't move, didn't speak. He just sat there watching. I live alone in a small house on a quiet street. Nothing crazy ever happens here. The neighbors keep to themselves. The nights are peaceful. That's why this night felt so strange. It started around 2 in the morning. I had gone to bed early, like I usually do. My phone was charging. The lights were off. Everything was normal, but something woke me up. It wasn't loud, just a soft thump, like someone stepped too hard on the floor downstairs. At first I thought, maybe I had dreamed it. I lay still in bed and listened. Then I heard it again, a low creak, like the living room floorboards shifting under someone's weight. That's when I sat up. I listened harder. Nothing, just silence. I told myself it was the house settling. Old houses make weird sounds sometimes. Still, I got out of bed and grabbed the small flashlight I keep on the nightstand. I didn't turn on the hallway light. I just walked slowly down the stairs, holding my breath. Halfway down, I noticed something that made me stop. The living room light, the one I always leave on, at night was off. I'm sure I left it on. I always do. It's a habit. I don't like walking into dark rooms, especially at night. But now, the room was pitch black. I stood there for a second, just staring into the darkness. Then I whispered, "Hello." No answer. I reached the bottom of the stairs and clicked on the flashlight. The beam lit up the room slowly. Couch, coffee, table, curtains. Nothing looked out of place. I walked round the room. I checked the front door, still locked. Deadbolt still turned. I checked the windows, all closed. No broken glass, no sign that anyone had been inside. I turned the light switch on. It worked. The room lit up like normal. So why was it off? I stood in the middle of the room, confused. I tried to remember, had I turned it off before bed? No, I was sure I hadn't. Still, I told myself I was just tired. Maybe I forgot. Maybe I hit the switch without realizing it. I turned the light back off and went upstairs, but I didn't sleep well. I kept hearing tiny sounds, creaks, taps, not loud, just enough to keep me awake. I kept thinking about that light. I kept seeing that dark room in my head. Something didn't feel right. The next morning, I checked the living room again. Everything looked fine, but for the first time since I moved in, I felt nervous in my own house, like someone else had been there, watching, waiting. I tried to forget about it. I didn't tell anyone. I just went on with my day. But that night, it happened again. And this time, I saw something after that first night. I started paying more attention to things. I left the living room light on again. I made sure the doors were locked twice. I even started leaving my flashlight by the bed instead of the drawer. For a couple of days, nothing strange happened. But then, little things started. One night, I came downstairs for a glass of water. The kitchen light was on. I was sure I hadn't left it like that. I never leave lights on at night, except the one in the living room another night. I found the hallway closet door cracked open. I always keep it shut. I stood there, staring at it, wondering if I'd opened it and forgot. I checked inside. Nothing. I started keeping track of small things. A chair moved slightly. The TV remote in a different spot. A strange creaking sound in the walls. I tried to tell myself it was just my imagination. But I didn't really believe that. And then the footsteps started. They weren't loud, just soft. Almost like bare feet walking across the wooden floor. I would be in bed, lights off, and I'd hear them downstairs. Slow, careful, one step, then another, and then nothing. One night, I even called out, "Is someone there?" No answer. I went down to check. Nothing. Every time, nothing. But I knew I'd heard it. That's when I stopped sleeping well. I started waking up at the same time every night around 2 a.m., always 2. That's when the sounds would start. Sometimes it was a creak, sometimes a soft thump, always coming from downstairs. And then came the worst night. I woke up again, 2:06 a.m. exactly. I looked at the clock. I already knew something was wrong. I felt it, like something was waiting. I grabbed the flashlight and walked the stairs. I didn't hear footsteps this time. No strange noises. Just a heavy, quiet feeling, like the air was too thick. I started going down the steps. Slow, halfway down. I could see part of the living room. That's when I stopped. There was someone sitting on the couch. I froze. They weren't moving, just sitting there, still. In the dark, I couldn't see their face. It was too shadowy, but I saw the shape of them. Their back was straight, hands on their knees, staring forward, not doing anything, just sitting. I didn't know what to do. I didn't even breathe. I just stood on the stairs, staring down into that dark room. I tried to tell myself it was something else. A jacket, a pile of clothes, a shadow. But no, I knew it wasn't. That was a person. I whispered, "Hello." Nothing. I whispered louder, "Who's there?" Still, nothing. They didn't move. I took one step down. My foot creaked on the stair. I aimed the flashlight, but I didn't turn it on. I don't know why. Maybe I was scared of what I'd see. Another step. My hands were shaking. And then, all at once, I turned on the flashlight and flicked the wall switch. Light filled the room. The couch was empty. Nobody there, no sound, no movement, just the couch. Normal, like always. I looked around the whole room, behind the curtains, in the closet. I even checked under the couch, like a little kid. Nothing, but I know what I saw. I didn't imagine it. Someone was sitting there. They didn't break in. The doors were still locked. The windows were closed. The alarm was still armed. It didn't make sense. I didn't sleep the rest of that night. I sat in my room, staring at the stairway, listening, waiting. After that, I stopped turning off the lights completely. I left more than just the living room lamp on. Kitchen, hallway, bathroom, every bulb. But it didn't matter, because every night something still came, and sometimes I saw it again. Just sitting, watching, waiting. After seeing that figure sitting on my couch, I was terrified. I didn't know what to do. I started locking every door and window 3 times before going to bed. I checked every lock, twice, sometimes more, but even that didn't make me feel safe. I bought a small security camera. It wasn't fancy, just a simple one I set up in the living room. I wanted to catch whoever was doing this. I also started sleeping with a knife on my nightstand. I never thought I'd need it, but after what happened, I kept it close, just in case. Still, I wasn't sure if I was losing my mind. Sometimes I wondered if I was dreaming. Maybe I was imagining things because I was tired or stressed. But then, the noises came back. One night, around 2 a.m., I woke up to the same soft footsteps. I heard them in the hallway, then the living room. I grabbed my phone and turned on the camera, app to watch the feed from the security camera. I watched the screen. With my heart beating fast, the camera showed the living room empty. But then, at exactly 2:02 a.m., the screen went blank, just static, white noise. It stayed that way until 2:16 a.m., the moment the image came back. The room was empty again. I rewound the video several times, but every time I tried to watch that part, it was just static, like something was blocking the camera. I felt my hands shake. How could this happen if I locked every door? If the alarm was armed? I didn't understand. The next morning, I found strange things in my house. The TV remote was moved. It wasn't where I left it. A photo frame was flipped upside down on the table. It was a picture of me and my family. I hadn't touched it. And the couch cushion where I saw the stranger sitting had a fresh indentation, like someone had been there just minutes before. I touched it. It felt warm. My mind was racing. What is happening? I whispered to myself. I checked the doors again, all locked. Deadbolts in place, windows closed tight. I even tested the alarm. It worked fine, but then the strangest thing happened. I noticed the front door wasn't locked from the inside. I was sure I locked it. I locked it again next night. I made sure to double lock it, then triple lock it. I sat in my room with the knife, waiting, but at 2 a.m., I heard the door creak. My heart jumped. I grabbed my flashlight and ran to the door. I checked. It was locked. I called the police. They came quickly and searched the whole house. No signs of forced entry, no footprints, nothing. They told me maybe it was my imagination or stress, but I knew it wasn't. I told them about the figure. They didn't say much, just looked at me with a serious face. I felt more alone than ever. I started questioning myself. Was I going crazy? Was I making it all up? But the evidence was there. The moved remote, the flipped photo, the warm cushion, and the locked doors. How did the stranger get in? Or did they live here with me all along? That thought scared me more than anything. I stopped sleeping. I couldn't eat. I couldn't think straight. Every night, I waited. Knife ready, flashlight in hand. I kept checking the video footage. Every night, the same static, from 2:02 to 2:16 a.m., and every morning, more signs. The stranger was still there, watching, waiting. After nights of hearing footsteps and seeing that dark shape on my couch, I decided I couldn't just sit and wait anymore. I had to face it. One night around 2 a.m., I heard the soft creak of the floor downstairs. My heart was pounding, but I grabbed my flashlight and slowly walked down the stairs. When I reached the bottom step, I saw him again, sitting on the couch, not moving, just sitting there like before. This time, I didn't freeze. I took a deep breath and said, "Who are you?" Nothing. I waited. Then I tried again, a little louder. "What do you want?" Still silence. My voice shook. My hands were sweaty. I wasn't sure if I should be scared or angry. Then, after what felt like a long time, he spoke. His voice was low, soft, almost like a whisper. "This is where I wait." I felt a chill go down my spine. "Wait for what?" I asked, but he didn't answer. I looked closer, but his face stayed hidden in the shadows. It was impossible to tell if he was old or young, man or woman. I felt frozen, like I couldn't move or speak. The silence between us was heavy. Then I said, "Why are you here? Why don't you leave?" No answer. I took a step closer. The floor creaked under my foot. He didn't move. I raised my flashlight and shone it toward him. The light hit the couch and he disappeared. The room was empty. No sign that anyone had been sitting there. I blinked, trying to make sense of it. Was I really talking to someone? Or was I losing my mind? I wanted to believe it was a trick of the light, a bad dream, but I knew it wasn't. I ran upstairs as fast as I could. I locked my bedroom door. I checked the windows. I double-checked every lock. I sat on my bed, holding the knife tightly. I couldn't sleep. Every noise made me jump. The silence felt loud. I kept hearing that voice inside my head, saying, "This is where I wait." I didn't understand what it meant. Wait for what? Wait for whom? I thought about calling someone, but I didn't want to sound crazy. I was alone, and I was scared. I stayed awake all night. When the sun finally came up, I felt exhausted, but also like I had to keep going, because whatever was in my house wasn't leaving, and I wasn't sure I wanted it to. After that night, when I heard the voice say, "This is where I wait," I knew I had to find out more. I couldn't live like this, scared, confused, and alone, so I started looking into the house's history. I went online and searched for old news stories about my neighborhood. I typed the address into a police report database. I found some strange things. Years ago, the house belonged to a man who lived alone, just like me. His name was Robert. Robert died in the living room, right there on that same couch, the police report said. They found him sitting in the dark. No signs of a struggle. No cause of death listed right away. Just sitting, dead. I read interviews from neighbors. Some said Robert was a quiet man. Some said he kept to himself. But others whispered things that made my skin crawl. They said the house was cursed, that Robert was waiting for someone to take his place. Didn't want to believe it, but the more I read, the more the pieces fit together. The footsteps, the figure on the couch, the voice. This is where I wait. Maybe Robert wasn't gone. Maybe he was still here, waiting. I kept digging. I found a local blog where people shared stories about haunted places nearby. One person said they once saw a shadow sitting silently in my living room window. Another said they heard strange noises from the house late at night. I saved the articles and the reports on my phone. I showed the pictures to a friend. He said, "Maybe you should move." I laughed nervously. Where would I go? I have nowhere else. I felt trapped, like the house was holding me, like I was becoming part of the story that night. I looked at the couch in the dark. I sat down slowly. I whispered, "Robert, if you're here, what do you want?" No answer, just silence. But I wasn't alone. I felt eyes watching me, waiting. I don't know what will happen next, but I know this. I'm not just a visitor here. I'm part of something dark, something I can't escape. After I learned about Robert and the strange history of the house, things started getting worse. It wasn't just the noises anymore. It was like the house was trying to mess with my head. One morning, I woke up and found the back door wide open. I'm sure I locked it the night before. I locked every door before bed. I checked 3 times, but there it was standing open, letting cold air in. I closed it and locked it again. That same day, I heard water running in the bathroom. I wasn't in there. I hadn't used the sink or shower. I went to check. The faucet was dripping slowly, like someone had turned it on. I turned it off, but the drip kept coming for a few seconds. It was like the house was breathing. I started feeling tired all the time. Would wake up in the morning, but sometimes I didn't know how I got there. One night, I woke up on the kitchen floor. I had no memory of falling. I just opened my eyes and saw the ceiling. I was scared, but I didn't know why. I couldn't remember. Going to bed another time, I woke up on the couch. My phone was in my hand, but I didn't remember picking it up. I checked the call log. There was a call made from my landline to a number I didn't recognize. I didn't make that call. I tried to call the number back, but it was disconnected. I started wondering, was I losing time? Was I sleepwalking? Or worse, was something else controlling me? I didn't know what to believe anymore. Sometimes I would find the lights turned off when I was sure I left them on dot. Other times I would hear whispering in the walls. I asked myself, am I going crazy? I started talking out loud just to remind myself what was real. Stay awake, I told myself. Don't fall asleep. But sleep came anyway. And when I woke up, I didn't know where I was. One night, I woke up and sat up in bed. I looked around. The room looked the same, but I felt different. I felt cold inside. I whispered, "Who are you?" No answer. I looked at the clock. It was 2 a.m. Again, the same time every night. Didn't know if the stranger was real or if I was becoming him. I felt like I was losing pieces of myself. I started forgetting things. Small things like where I put my keys, then bigger. Things like if I locked the doors sometimes. I would stand in front of the mirror and not recognize my own face. My eyes looked tired, empty. I didn't know how much longer I could hold on. The house wasn't just haunted, it was changing me, and I was losing. One night, I didn't run, I didn't hide, I didn't scream, I just sat. I sat across from him, the stranger, the thing that had been sitting on my couch for nights. The house was dark. No lights on, just the faint moonlight coming through the window. I felt my heart pounding, but I didn't move. He sat there, quiet still. I stared at his face, or, at least, what I could see of it. It was covered in shadows. But something was different this time. The face shifted, slowly, just a little. And then, I saw it. It looked like me, exactly like me. Same shape, same eyes, same tired look. But his eyes were empty, hollow, like there was nothing behind them. He didn't blink, he didn't speak, swallowed hard. I wanted to say something, but the words got stuck. Then he said it. His voice was low and slow, almost a whisper. "This is where I wait." I felt a chill run through my body. I whispered, "Wait for what?" He didn't answer. Then he said it again. "This is where I wait. Until it's your turn." "What do you mean?" I asked, my voice shaking. He didn't say anything else. He just stared. I looked into those empty eyes, and I felt like I was looking into a mirror, but not my mirror. A broken one. I tried to stand up, but my legs wouldn't move. I was frozen. He leaned forward just a little, and I heard his voice in my head. Soon. I blinked. He was gone. The couch was empty, just like before. But this time, I knew it wasn't a trick. I sat there for a long time, trying to understand what had just happened. I kept thinking about those words. Until it's your turn. What did that mean? Was I next? Was I going to end up like him? Sitting in the dark, waiting. I didn't want to believe it, but a part of me knew. It was true. I got up slowly and locked every door. I turned on every light in the house, but the fear didn't go away. I felt like I was being watched, like something inside me was changing. That night, I didn't sleep. I just stared at the couch, waiting for something. I didn't want to come. After that, night after seeing him, the one who looked like me, I stopped fighting it at first. I didn't want to believe what was happening, but slowly, I started changing. I stopped locking the doors. I stopped checking the windows. Sometimes, I even left them open. I stopped turning on the lights at night. I wanted the darkness. I wanted to feel him near me. Friends called. They asked if I was okay. I didn't answer. I stopped texting back. I didn't want anyone around. It was like the house wasn't mine anymore, like it belonged to someone else. One night, it happened again. I heard the soft creak of the front door. I didn't get up. I didn't run. I just sat on the couch. The door slowly opened. He walked inside, not fast, not loud, just walked in like he belonged there. I didn't stop him. I didn't say a word. He sat down next to me. I didn't move. We sat together in the dark, side by side. Neither of us said anything. I felt cold, but I wasn't scared anymore. It was like I had given up, like I was waiting for whatever came next. I looked at him. His face was still in the shadows, still empty, still not real. But I felt connected, like we were the same. I whispered, "Why are you here?" He didn't answer. I didn't need an answer. We just sat together, waiting that night. I didn't sleep. I didn't try. I didn't care, because I knew he wasn't going anywhere, and neither was I. I'm telling you this story now from my couch. It's dark here. I don't turn on the lights anymore. I haven't left the house in days. I don't even try. The windows are closed. The doors are locked, but I'm still not alone. Every night, the other one comes. He sits beside me. We don't talk, we just sit, waiting. Sometimes I watch him. He looks just like me, same face, same eyes. But he isn't me, he's something else, something quiet, something patient at first. I thought I was losing my mind. Maybe I still am, but now I don't care. I don't try to fight it. I don't want to fight it. Because maybe I'm the one who should be waiting. I don't know, sometimes. When I look in the mirror, I don't know which face is mine anymore. The one staring back at me is tired, empty. I wonder if the other one feels the same. We sit together in the dark. Neither of us moves. Neither of us speaks. I don't know what he wants, or why he's here. All I know is that I'm still here too, and I don't know how much longer I can stay. Sometimes I forget which one of us is real.